This is TWiT.
The Texas social media law, which I think we all agree is insane, but of course it is probably going to be the law. The Fifth Circuit has blocked the blockage. Has lifted the injunction. Now, a couple of tech industry groups, NetChoice and the CCIA, have filed an emergency application with the Supreme Court asking them to stay the lift of the injunction, which, in other words, to keep the law from going into effect. Last week, we were talking about this. I can't remember if it was Mike Masnick who said that, unfortunately, the Fifth Circuit's guy on the Supreme Court, the guy who would rule on this in the shadow docket, is none other than the wonderful Justice Alito. So I'm not sure an appeal to the Supreme Court for an emergency injunction will.
Well, the other thing is it in the legislation itself? Someone, I forget who it was who said this week. It might have been Masnick, because Masnick says all things. Is that within the law itself, it negates itself because federal law supersedes it, and Section 230 supersedes it. So it's the law that isn't. It's an NFT of laws.
Right. NetChoice and CCIA say the Texas law is unconstitutional, which it obviously is, because it essentially amounts to the government compelling a private business to carry speech they otherwise would remove. The First Amendment prohibits Texas, they say, from forcing online platforms to host and promote foreign propaganda, pornography, pro-Nazi speech, and spam. Left standing HB 20, the Texas law, will turn the First Amendment on its head.
That's one way to put it. I think it might be doing something worse, bodily harm to the First Amendment.
I almost hate people saying, but what about Texas Section 230? Because I almost feel like, we don't talk about Section 230. Mm-hmm. Don't bring it up, because that just gives people more ammunition to go after it.
To fight on it, right?
Yeah.
True.
Shoshana, what is the chance that the Supreme Court will strike down HB 20?
Yeah, like on a larger panel, stuff Gorsuch has said, like Gorsuch understands. I'm a big Gorsuch fan usually. We agree on a lot. He likes licensing reform. He's like alluded to it. So I'm like, we're vibing here, you and me, Gorsuch. He also likes unenumerated rights, which I'm very excited about. And I think he'll look at this and know this is dumb. Kavanaugh's had opinions in the past where like he recognizes how Section 230 works, and he also understands like the dynamic of this stuff. I don't know the other justices. Judge Jackson was talking about in her confirmation hearing, she was asked about 230, and she seemed to have a pretty good grasp on how everything works around here. It's still hard to say how they'll apply it to a state law, but I mean, a lot of the standards around this stuff are going to be strict scrutiny. And like, I'm not a huge fan of the rational basis test, especially when applied to unenumerated rights. So like, I extra appreciate strict scrutiny because it's like the Supreme Court doing its job to review government actions, and it's First Amendment. So I think it'll be okay, but like, you never know. I mean, the Supreme Court gives us horrible surprises now and then. So I'm like, I hope, but the one thing that I'm sure of is that I think it's a really good use of government money to spend throwing this through court, defending it. Just the whole process. This was really, really worth taxpayer dollars.
So it would be up to Alito whether the court would take the case on. He has the right at this point to unilaterally say, no, we're going to let the Fifth Circuit's decision stand, and that would be that until the case comes to court. Do you think you didn't mention Alito? Is he pro 230? Does he?
Good question.
I'm sure he's an enumerated rights guy.
Yeah, he's not with me on unenumerated rights, and I don't even just mean like the abortion case. I think there's a real deeper theory there that people tend to ignore and only see abortion. Well, for me, it's the right to earn a living. That's an unenumerated right that's been given more protection. There's all kinds there.
Yeah.
But
the filibuster is an unenumerated right too. Let's get rid of that. I'm sorry. First Amendment, is that count as an enumerated right? Yes.
Oh, enumerated, not unenumerated.
Not unenumerated. But Section 230, enumerated merely means it's mentioned specifically in the Constitution.
Yeah, they wrote it down. And the Ninth Amendment says just because we didn't write it down doesn't mean don't protect it. They get the same protection. And then you had judges for like decades being like, I'm going to ignore that now and just kind of do what I want. So I'm big on like unenumerated rights theory, that it deserves the same protection. But like, we're talking about fundamental rights with this case, like the, free speech, which I think it's I don't think it should be treated differently than unenumerated rights, but it is. So it's harder for the court to mess it up. It doesn't mean they won't, but it's definitely like less likely that you're going to look at their decision and stress out. But, it still depends if Alito is going to do something beforehand. I haven't read him on tech law. I know him on certain areas, but not this. So I'm just hoping he won't disappoint us.
Oh, it'll be very interesting. Yeah. In a way, somebody in the chat room is saying, there's something wrong with me. I want to watch the world burn. In a way, I feel the same way. I kind of want to say, make it a law. Let's see what happens. Be very interesting to see what happens. What would the consequences of the HB 20 be? Twitter can't say we're not going to operate in Texas.
Yeah, they can. They can find some way.
Can they?
That's what. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be imperfect. It's going to be IP, and somebody will get around it and say, "Aha! I'm in Texas, and I got you, Twitter." But yeah, they can. I mean, Facebook pulled its news from Australia.
Yeah, but
Google
Texas is a state.
Spain.
It's not a country.
Yeah. But it'd be really interesting then. It becomes a warning shot to companies. But God knows, with this Twitter administration and this board, who knows? Who knows what's happening? Yeah. Elon's going to move them to Texas, so God knows.
Well, it may be more to the point, Facebook would also have to get out of Texas, wouldn't it? Facebook's that big. Or maybe not.
But how do they do that with a law saying they can't stop operating there just because of the law? Like,
the law specifically says you have to continue to operate in Texas.
Like, functionally, maybe there's a way around it, but I'm not sure how they do that.
It's crazy.
You could make people coming in from Texas indemnify you by saying that you won't do anything, and then if they don't do it, then you put up operating here. Yeah. But you can't get in unless you have a lawyer give you a blood-signed oath. That kind of stuff.
So how do you feel about cookies, and would you sign this blood oath? It's perfect. Yeah,
that's a lot of blood, though. I mean, like, then you have to get health authorities involved. That's extra layers that I'm not sure they'd be willing to take on for that. They might just stop moderating.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering, is maybe they would just say, okay, fine. Texas gets to
give us your firstborn now that you're required by law to have it. Yeah,
Oh, geez. Okay. Too soon?
Yeah. Well, but firstborn too, then you have to get other agencies involved. Like, it seems like all your solutions are you're getting more regulatory complexity, and I don't think it makes anything easier.
This is the world we live in. No wonder you live in a half fantasy world, Shoshana. It's called Washington now.
Shh, don't tell her it's a fantasy. I think she believes it.
All right. Bob.
We call him Spot.
Yeah, I mean, I live here with my husband, and I go out west a lot, but I'm not sure what you mean by fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. Mike actually has an interesting piece in Monday's Tech Dirt that Twitch could have actually violated the Texas social media law by pulling down the live stream of the Buffalo murder spree, because that's moderating. That gives you some reason to pause.
It's just all so stupid.
It's such a bad law that you almost want to see what would happen if they tried to enforce it. Sometimes I think people make these laws much like the social media law in Florida. And of course, Florida says you can't protest in front of justices' homes, even though there are no justices in Florida. I feel like they make these laws.
Oh, to get media attention.
It's a political statement as much as it is.
It's trolling.
It's sort of trolling.
That's too nice to them. It's trolling.
Yeah.
It's trolling media.
I can't think of a better use of legislative time than trolling, though. Like, I'm not sure what else it would make sense to do.
What would you do if you didn't troll? Right.
Yeah. So Governor Ducey has been doing like letting people from other states work in Arizona. And he had a law that actually got me interested in him years ago, saying that state and local governments could not use government money to pay lobbyists that they hire to lobby government itself, because that's silly and duplicative. But really, instead of doing that, I wonder what he could have done and what he could have accomplished if he just tried to troll a little bit harder,
We want 10% of the money that we pay to the lobbyists to lobby us. We want 10%. Actually, you could really make some money on that, I believe. I think that's a violation of quantum mechanics, but I think you can make money on that. Charging
do you have Michio Kaku? Like, can you check if
string theory would be very, very helpful. in this.
Good Lord. I got a question about this whole with the Buffalo shooting and the way the government went after Twitch. How fast are we expecting the moderation to be able to jump into the live stream and kill it? You know.
Well, the thing that's interesting about the Twitch is I think only I think I saw the number 40 people saw that stream.
Yeah, I saw it there.
There. But as soon as it was pulled down, it was reproduced everywhere, and millions, 40 million people, something like that, saw it subsequently. There's that Streisand effect.
Right, but people are yelling at the social media platforms as if it was Twitch's fault.
Yeah, it's not Twitch's fault.
You know.
No. It's not Twitch's fault.
One thing that gets me too is that, like, obviously platforms don't want the stuff on them.
Right.
Sometimes they don't act fast enough. But I never understand politicians who genuinely think that their business model is to have like the worst stuff like this and monetize it, because it's functionally not how it works. Like, it doesn't benefit them to have it on the platform.
So it's just grandstanding because it's primary season?
More trolling.
Pain. It's just pain for me. I'm always in pain from this. Like, politicians just not knowing how the internet works.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I've.
Speaking of the video, though, I think it was I put a story in there that I found really interesting.
This is from Garbage Day.
Exactly.
Email. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't always blame algorithms. So here's the
Tim Kaine did a tweet saying, never mind Fox News, never mind Tucker Carlson, never mind whatever. Actually, everybody's finally talking about. Tim Kaine finally wakes up and says, "Big tech, go after big tech and algorithms." And then this what used to be known as a blogger is now known as a newsletterer, writes, I'm forgetting his name suddenly, that it all came from 4chan. 4chan, the point of 4chan is that it's ephemeral. There's no amplification. There's no algorithm involved at all. And so this idea that let's get rid of all the algorithms because that's what's corrupting society. Sorry guys, not in this case.
It's the other way around. Yeah.
It's TV and it's 4chan. Meeting and
I'm sorry, Tim Kaine. I don't think you could call 4chan big tech.
No, you can't.
No,
you can't.
We must stop. He tweets, "We must stop big tech from propagating big lies that lead to carnage." I don't think anybody in big tech wants replacement theory propagated.
He clearly had no idea.
No idea. It was an easy thing.
Son of a...
It's really frustrating, though, but especially because, like you're saying, like the bad stuff comes on other forums that has nothing to do with algorithms, and algorithms just go for what people want anyway, and sure, try to mitigate the harms. But like, I mean, I'm still kind of floored that I remember the video game moral panic when I was a kid. I remember that. But then, like, looking back and remembering that Congress was basically having hearings on 7 pixels, I just can't like trust them on anything when it comes to like these moral panics.
Yeah. I'm researching right now moral panics. So watch out, Ant. Get your finger ready. I've been saving things. Who's
Adam Thierer at Mercatus has a ton of work. Yeah. I'm glad you know of him already, but he's great. I need to read his moral panic work so I can, understand, so I can moral panic run moral panics.
Yeah. But so I've saved bookmarks to moral panic since 2017. And it's just my favorite of all of them is that sex toys could kill.
Oh boy. Have they?
I don't think so. I haven't seen anything. But they could.
Yeah.
Remote control cyber sex toys could be the death of us.
Yeah.
I'm willing to try just out of experimental purposes.
Okay.
Live dangerously, Leo.
You have at it, sir.
I'm a chance risk taker.